Hello, guys. It's Mamaw Yates, and I'm going to talk to you today about some of the things that we get a lot of questions about, um, which actually you could find the answer to on your own. But I think, you all have got a lot on your plate, so I'm going to discuss these with you. Um, in the back of everybody's handbook, it doesn't matter what handbook of what assessment you're doing, you're going to find this page called Professional Responsibilities. And it's on page 38, for example, of this is the Visual Arts Handbook. And it might be on page 40 of yours or 39, but it's around there in the back. And these are the things we get a lot of questions about. Now, when we talk about professional responsibilities, they are exactly what they sound like. As a professional, you're responsible for certain things. However, that does not mean that these things are in a rubric, which is, how they score, or part of your condition code. So, meeting the professional responsibilities is your obligation as a professional. However, a lot of these things that we're talking about do not affect your score in any way. So that's important to know, because I think sometimes what I get from students is that they're super duper worried about something that really, really, really doesn't make that much difference in your score. Okay? So, first of all, it's your responsibility to protect the confidentiality of the students and your school. Your school that you are recording in has given you permission to do this, and that's something they don't have to do. In return, you need to respect the confidentiality. So anytime you are writing, either in your context for learning or any of your commentaries, or in any of your instructional materials, you need to make every effort you can to make sure your name is not on the documents. Do not name your state. Do not name your school, your district, or your cooperating teacher. So you'll say things, generic things like my state, my district, my school. When possible, you should remove all names off of any type of lesson plans or student work samples. You black them out, white them out, put student A, student B. Now, when you record, of course you're going to call the students by their names. We want the recordings to be as authentic as possible. And so you don't want to start calling student A and student B in the middle of the lesson. They're going to be confused. So you call them by their first name just like you generally would. Um, so these are some things that are pretty common sense, but they are something that you have to think about. Um, During the video recording, you're using their first names, and sometimes there'll be like 3 Amandas in the classroom, and I get this a lot. Um, People will say to me, well, Mamaw, I've got 3 Amandas, and so I have to use their last name. Okay. Well, that's not what they're saying. They're not saying that you're going to lose points because you said somebody's last name. They're saying it's your responsibility to do the very best you can. I have a lot of people who record, and they'll say, well, it was Spirit Day and everybody came to school wearing the name of the school on their shirts. Well, that's okay too. You just need to do the best you can. It's a responsibility to do that, not a scoring requirement. Now, also this year with all the virtual learning environments, a lot of people have contacted me about Google Meet, telling me that they cannot change the students' names on Google Meet like you can on Zoom. I did check on this, and even though it's a professional obligation for you to protect the confidentiality of the students, you are we request that you try to blur those names on Google Meet. but if you mess it up or can't get it quite done, it does not go against you in the scoring. All right, permissions. Get a lot of questions about permissions. Permissions are important because we don't record people's children without asking them first. That's just not the way the world works in America. You need to ask parents permission. And so I get, most schools get permission slips. But here's a news flash for you. Who are those permission slips for? The school. You need permission slips for you, is what I tell my students. Because 2 or 3 years down the road, if something comes up and you're teaching in an entirely different school because you didn't get hired in your placement school, where are those permission slips? Right? Are you going to go back to your placement school that maybe even be in a different state and say, I need permission slips, and they don't have them? They don't know what you're talking about. So for me, getting permission from the students in your classroom is to protect you. It's respectful to the parents, but it's also protect you. Now, here at my school, we have these permission slips made for you, and we have both virtual type and hard copy. You need to get those from your seminar leader. But for those of you who are maybe on your own at a different school, they have some sample forms here at the edTPA website. Tons of questions about citing sources. If I had $1 for every time I answered this question, I could quit teaching. Ooh, man, this is a big one. I don't know why, but I think it's because of the anxiety of surrounding sources, and how you cite them. Whole lot of people, always concerned about, oh my gosh, AP style, blah, 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 when in fact, no one looks at your citations. They're not part of a condition code, and I've got a video on condition codes, and they're not part of any rubric. You can look through all the rubrics all you want to. You'll never see anything there about citations. They do want you to reference in order to score better on a whole lot of the rubrics than a 3. You do need to talk about foundations of education and how that fits in with your plans, theories, and research. But you don't have to provide citations for those. You can if you want to, and if you do, you need to put them at the end of the planning commentary. At the end of the planning commentary. One more time. At the end of the planning commentary. Okay? That's where they go. Just like if you were making a bibliography, they'd all be in the back of the book, regardless of, it didn't matter. So you're not going to put footnotes, or you're not doing it that way. It's like a bibliography. But look what it says. Provide citations for the source of all materials you did not create. It doesn't mention anything about citing the source of the research and theory that you used. So sometimes I have candidates that I think are reluctant to, for example, refer to the work of Vygotsky or Piaget because they don't have the citation and they think that's important, and it's not. What's important is the level at which you develop your argument. That's what's important. You don't just throw out Piaget and Vygotsky. You have to make that real connection about how those foundational theories and thought affected your planning. That's what we're looking at. Okay, so, and I get a lot of questions. Oh no, they make me use this book. They make me use, my mentor wants me to use her materials. Sure, do that. You can use it, any published or unpublished materials from anybody. You just need to make sure that you meet the professional obligation of listing those, and you put them where? At the end of the planning commentary. Okay, so you have got to use your state and or national standards, or whatever is being used in your school, whatever standards. And so you'll list standards and you'll talk about standards in your planning commentary. But you can remove all the numbers that are in the front that, for instance, identify the state. So, like, for instance, my state, they've got 10 for Tennessee on all of them. That gives away where you are, and there's just no need in that. You can remove that. There are acceptable supports that you, I will probably put that into another video so you can look for acceptable supports. But acceptable supports are found on edTPA.com. What it amounts to is that this work has to be your own. You don't have to create every single piece of instructional material that you use. Just like in a classroom, you don't. You borrow from other teachers. You use published things. But you do have to be the one that does the teaching in the video, right? That needs to be you. You need to write your own commentaries. A lot of people will look at the commentaries that other people have written for ideas. That's not against acceptable supports. You can do that, but you can't copy it because they've got plagiarism software they use. So don't be copying it. So when you submit your completed work, you have like this honesty statement that you've got to do, and it says that you've taken responsibility for teaching the students during that segment. So that means that the teacher in the video is you, not the mentor. That you've not previously taught this learning segment to these students. So you might have taught it to a group of students last semester, but you've not previously taught this to these students. The videos are unedited. That means continuous. The unedited thing always confuses students. They're like, well, we have to clip out 10 minutes. Yeah, we know. We told you to do that. Yes, you have to clip out 10 minutes. That's not what we mean by editing. We mean editing means that you can't go in and snip out 10 seconds of bad behavior and try to squish it together and nobody notice. You have to take 10 continuous minutes out of your videos. The work that you're using for task 3, the student work, has to be student work that are your students, and it needs to be completed during that learning segment. You confirm that you're the author of the commentaries, and that you have made citations for the materials that aren't yours. Now, one of the things that you'll notice from the condition codes, see right here, it says the internet. Don't put a web address in place of as a citation. So instead, say pull from the web. Well, actually, don't use a hyperlink is what I meant to say. You do need to put the web address. What you don't want is a hyperlink in place of the information. A scorer, when she's looking at your stuff, she's on a platform, and that platform does not allow the scorer to click on your hyperlink. So although they're not going to check your citations at all, there's just, there's a rule about condition codes, about hyperlinks, and so I just tell my students to avoid them altogether. So I hope that helps you out and you find that helpful. I've got lots of other videos about these types of my playlist on artifacts, and so keep up the good work. Work hard, stay on top of it. Don't let that elephant get on top of you. You need to ride the elephant, not the other way around. Bye.